So it finally stopped raining for 10 seconds, so I'm going to tell you about my project here. So this is an 89 Acura Integra RS, I think. Bought it for 700 bucks. It was the backup car when we were trying to figure out how to get my wife's Jeep reliable. But since then, we have traded it in for a Prius, so we don't need this anymore. That said, done a bunch of work on it already. And so like it's got seats from a Thunderbird in it, new stereo, nothing major. Kind of fixed up some of the interior pieces, but it's just beat all to hell, and I've already got another project or two in the garage that I'd rather work on. So at first we were thinking of parting this out or something, or getting it running and selling it. But then I think we had a better idea. So what I'm going to do is sell the spoiler and back hatch, sell the glass here, sell a bunch of the interior pieces, and anything else I can tear off of it that doesn't keep it from moving, basically. Then we are going to hack it off right here and straight up here, build a little cab for it and a bed, and it is going to be probably the first gen Acura pickup truck. Unfortunately right now the first couple videos are just going to be putting the head back together and getting it running, and then got a couple other projects that are also going to be working on, because with the weather the way it is, I don't really want to be tearing that thing apart out there, so we're going to try and get this thing sort of back together and out in the driveway. This is my great grandpa's Oldsmobile. It is a 1970 98 LS with a 455 pretty much, and so we're gonna be doing a little bit of work, just get it running, turn it back into a cruiser. It's got a few things on it, like the damage to the front end here. This is also an 89. It is just an EF Civic hatch with, that is a D16 Z6 block with a Y8 head, Eagle rods, Wiseco pistons, and just pretty standard build. Block guard, an old STS turbo on it. And basically what we're at with this one is the bolts on the turbo are kind of stripped out, and the turbo doesn't spin very well. Needs a little bit of work done on that, and then exhaust work, and then tuning and injectors and windshield. I've got the injectors. It actually needs probably a starter too. I've got the injectors, I've got the interior pieces. Starting to put together some tuning stuff. Those are the three projects I'm going to be working on this year. Learning to tune on this Civic, getting this thing put back together, and turning that Integra into a truck. Alright, so first off, we're going to start working on, or finish working on the head. What I'm going to be doing today is lapping the valves. Now, you can see on these valves there's tons of pitting and all sorts of other crap on there. Alright, so first thing we're going to be doing is, I've been working on it already. You can see I've got a few of these valves marked as to whether they leaked or not, but the valves that came out of here were super pitted. The valve stem seals had leaked all over the place and had pitted the valves pretty bad, so we're just because, I mean, this being a $500 car, I'm not going to try and pretend I'm not going to dump a bunch of money into it. It's not set up for it, so I'm just lapping the valves with the power drill. Now, you guys that work at machine shops will probably freak out about this, and that's okay. I get it's not going to last as long as like a, 4-angle valve job. you know what, if it seals at all, like if this thing, at this point, if this car makes it another 20,000 miles, it'll be a freaking miracle anyway, so. Especially with this engine in it. Because I'd rather just blow the stupid engine anyway. Then I can put something fun in there, so. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm attaching, I've got basically a drill attached to a vacuum hose. And that's attached to the valve, so I can spin it and pull it like this. And I'm going to switch it to a slower speed first for the first round of this. I've sprayed WD-40 on the valve stem. You can use motor oil or something. Basically, you just want some sort of lubrication. You want to make sure it's clean so you don't screw up the valve stem or the valve guides. Either one of them. Then you get your valve grinding compound, which I have a coarse and a fine grinding compound here, but what I wanted to use was the freaking Permatex stuff. What the hell did I do with it? Where did it go, huh? Oh, I dropped it. Here it is. How did it even end up there? What the heck? Anyway. Alright, Permatex valve grinding compound. Now there's this VersaChem version. Sorry, I don't know how much you can see. This is kind of new to me. We just got a tripod like today. So this one you can get in coarse and fine grade. They're basically all the same thing. I had a hard time getting the valves to seal with this stuff, honestly, so I went and picked some of this up, and it's gone a little bit better. Basically, I'm going to show you what I've been doing here. And the end goal of this is just basically grind a somewhat flat finish into the valve seat and the valve face. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this is going to do well, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than the crappy pitted valves that were in it before, and honestly it was running okay with that, and I'd be happy with. At this point, I would settle for fluids staying inside the engine, and I don't really care past that. So the reason you want it on a vacuum hose, by the way, nobody ever really tells you this, but in this case it's because I can't get the drill chuck close enough to the valve stem to latch onto it. But in like a single overhead cam head, you can get the drill right onto it. But in that case, it's really easy to put a little too much pressure sideways on the drill, and then you end up screwing up your valve guides real easy. So this way, you still want to try and keep it straight, but you don't have to try quite as hard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep I'm going to spin it, and I'm going to keep pulling it off and on in reverse directions until you'll hear the pitch kind of change. When it stays at the higher pitch, it means it's not grinding anymore, and I'll add more of this stuff, and I'll keep doing this for probably 2-3 minutes. Alright, now it's at a higher pitch. Gonna throw a little more on there. Alright, at this point I'm going to switch it to a higher speed on the drill. I'm not going to go flat out, but I just can keep doing it that slow. But I'm impatient. This head's already screwed anyway, so. So now I'm just checking to see what it's looking like. I'm going to grab my rag here, and it's pretty wet from me testing the valves earlier, but I'm just going to kind of clean some of that crap off. You're going to be really careful not to get it onto the valve stem, because then you'll end up grinding your valve guide. And then you're in for an expensive trip to the machine shop, so don't do that. So what I'm looking for is you'll see a stripe on it. I'll show you after this, but you'll see a stripe where the valve's starting to make contact. Alright, I'm starting to see a pretty even looking surface on there. So I'm going to actually, rather than cleaning it off, I'm going to grab my WD-40 and spray a bit on there, and that's going to dilute it a little bit. And then hopefully I'll start polishing more with the particles that have been ground off of the valve itself than the grinding compound.
So here it's start to go nice and high pitch, and then it'll start grabbing.
I'm giving, it's hard to see, but I'm giving some pretty good pressure on here at some points. Like, so when I give it a few light taps like that, and then I'll pull it pretty hard. So you hear the pitch change. And I look on there, and now I've got like a light slurry of grinding compound over the top of a nice shiny valve in there. So you kind of wipe it off, and if it looks like you got a pretty flat surface, in this case that's probably close to as good as we're going to get. So I'm going to grind it just a little bit more with what's left on there. Take the drill off, make the vacuum hose off, pop that crap out, don't drop it like I almost did. Make sure I keep squeezing the crap out of that thing, so don't do that. And you can kind of see there's a nice stripe on there. And it's a nice even surface all the way around. And I'll clean this off. I'm not going to show you up close, but basically it's going to look the same. Now, you don't want to grind it too much. You can risk, well, first of all, screwing up the seats like I was talking, or not the seats, but the guides like I was talking about. But you also don't want to grind all the way down into the valve, so it's, just enough to get the pitting and the crap off of it. We're not trying to go for crazy good here. I hear so many bad things about this, especially on the new hardened valve seats. Like, I get this isn't going to do as good of a job as an actual valve job in a machine shop, but I already had this. This is 20 bucks. This is $4. That's a lot cheaper than any place I was quoted. So when you really just got to get the thing running, or you just don't care, because honestly I'd rather spend money on the other projects. So this is just, we're going to see how well it works. If it doesn't, whatever, I'll be eating my words, and we'll be, you'll see in my next video going to the machine shop or something. But so far got most of these valves to seal with oil or water. Now I realize that's not pressure testing, but so this thing's just had the tar beat out of it, and they still go forever, like, this one has 160,000 miles on it, which is nothing for a Honda, but still, it was, other than burning a little oil, it was running pretty much fine. Like, I would have driven it for years like that as a teenager, so it's not like this is gonna make it worse, for sure. Trick for getting the stem seal on there: get you a socket, You want one, a lot of people say 10 millimeter. I like using a 12 millimeter, which I... Woo! That hurt. Man, I just beaten the living tar out of myself today. Ah! Ow! Anyway, so take your 12 millimeter. I'm just going to put it on an extension so I can get some more leverage. The reason I'm using 12 millimeter on this one is because it fits right over the top of the stem seal spring there and pushes on the outer edge here rather than on the rubber top there. Because if you just make sure I'm actually getting you in the... If I just shove on that rubber top, good enough. Okay. Now, little trick for compressing valve spring is I don't have the tool. I'm too lazy. Also, I just don't care. So, rather than going through all the crappy work. Now, these aren't, I'm not putting in stronger valve springs or anything. I'm not going to be revving this crazy. I'm going to take a couple of zip ties. I'm just going to loop them around like this. And I'm going to get it up like this, and then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it down against the table and yank it that direction on the zip tie. You can see how it's kind of compressed over to one side. Now you can use a vise, or I've got a hydraulic press. I use it on a couple of them. But for the sake of this, I'm just trying to do it the old bear paw method and just smash them. You get the second one on here. Smash the living crap out of them. Ah, there we go. It's still tilted. I'm gonna try again on this other side. There we go. Nice compressed valve spring. Keep in mind which way it goes up and which way it goes down on these ones. As far as I can tell from the internet, because I'm too stupid to actually remember how I took them off. You have this like these extra couple of coils on the bottom side. So I'm going to put those over the valve, making sure the shim and everything. Let me get you up closer. All right. So here's my spring. I'm going to take that. I'm going to put it over. You want to make sure that the shim is still down in there. You actually want to do that before you put the stem seal on. I do that all the freaking time. And then go to your box of knickknacks and you get your top retainer here. You put that on. And you pop the little clip in. Is this the retainer? Never actually looked that up. Alright, you just you can push down on the valve a little bit, but you see it popped in there. Alright, now you get your pair of wire cutters. And you just, there you go, yank it out. Ah, crap. Or you get your needle nose pliers and yank, anyway. Then you just kind of pull this around to the front. Cut that thing. I'm going to take a socket and just push it down a couple times. Looks like it's good. Alright, so now I'm going to flip this up. And just got this one in here, you can kind of see right here. Now we're just going to leak test it real quick. Typically you want to use like a really lightweight oil or something. I don't really have any on me that I want to keep pouring into this thing anyway. So it's hard to see on the camera, I think. But basically, there are two kind of like chambers down in here. This is actually a lot easier if you get the second valve in. But I'm going to for the sake of the video, I'm just going to pour some water into this. And all over my workbench again. Pro tip, make sure your towel's in front of it before you do this. It works a lot better when you can fill the entire chamber up, just because you can see it better, and it also puts a little more water pressure there so you can tell if it's actually leaking or not. So basically this is not a conclusive test as to whether or not this holds pressure. Really you want penetrating oil on this side because that's where the combustion is actually going to be. But that's not even going to do it. You want to bolt some sort of plate over this or put it back on the engine and then actually compression test it. So this isn't a conclusive test. This is just to make sure that it's not completely screwed, because if it leaks during this, you definitely need to redo it, which if you look at my little marks here, you can see this X here. That's because these two were the first valves I lapped. I used this other compound. It really screwed it up. I didn't get enough, an even enough surface to seal it all, so when I filled it up like this, it was just leaking straight out of both of them. Like, you could just watch it drip. So that definitely would not have, I mean, at this point it's not leaking water. It's still kind of a toss-up as to whether it's going to seal combustion gases, but it's definitely not as bad as it was before. So, but yeah, I think that's about it for tonight, guys. So I'm gonna wrap this up and hopefully get a little bit more done over the weekend. We got some family coming into town, so I don't know. I'll try and get this up, but that's about it for now. Frick, that scared me.